Are you asking the audience or me? Or both?
Both.
Both. Everything is happening. I like literally just got to the end of this book like right before we got here, so I feel a little manic because that's how this book
Y-
makes you feel.
It
Um,
does. Oh,
it does. Yes. So I'm Colleen.
I'm Orja, and this is the last episode of Book Witches with a B, Season 4, Blood Over Brighthaven.
Woo! I was saying I love this book, but I am very ready to be done with it. My
Oh,
emotional state, I think, will feel a little bit better. Like it's an incredible book. It's one of my favorites. Heartbreaking to
yeah.
study and to do for this. So
Agreed, agreed. I was literally sitting
yeah.
on the sofa, like reading it and taking notes for the recap. And my
Mhm.
husband Joel, like, I don't even know what he said to me. And I was like, "What do you want?" And he was like, and I was like, "I'm fired up." He was like, "Okay, honey." And I was like, I'm sorry, it's the book.
It makes you feel every emotion you've ever had within the span of
Yeah,
like 3 sentences.
it
Yeah.
does. I literally texted Colleen, I'm fuming. There are angry tears prickling my eyes right now. So,
They're valid. Yeah.
yeah. With that in mind, we are covering 5 chapters,
Ooh,
and all of it
back to our
happens.
roots.
All the things happen in
Yeah.
these 5 chapters. So buckle up. We're gonna do a chapter recap, and we need to, you and I both. I'm saying this to both of us. No thoughts. Only recap
I might put my mic
until
down so I don't forget. Yeah.
until we get, because there's so much to discuss, and the chapter recap is gonna be so long.
Mhm.
So, with that being
Sounds
said,
great.
are we ready?
Uh, I know we've said this many times, but buckle up. Let's go.
Let's go. Chapter recap.
Woo!
Woo! And for the interest of time, I'm not going to read the excerpts in the beginning of each chapter because they actually are all very long in these last 5 chapters. And I already have excerpts to read, so we're jumping straight in. Chapter 19, Mage's Mirror. Leon's hall has been repaired since Siona's examination fiasco, where she broke a hole through the ceiling with the giant cauldron. She notes that Stravos has been painted to look more Tyrish than Quen, his red hair looking slightly more brown, and wonders idly if Tiran has slowly been rewriting their shared history with the Quen with each coat of paint. Yes, the answer is yes. She confronts Renthorn and realizes that Tomo punched a few moments of memory from Renthorn's mind. He thinks Siona knocked him out and he's really mad, which was, I mean, it was, she's rightfully smug about it. It's great. Siona waits while Renthorn and Tanril present their spell work, and Siona thinks that they might run the clock out without seeing her work, but Brigham finally reminds them of her and they ask her to present. Archmage Orenhall. This is, I believe, the Supreme Archmage Supreme Orenhall, tells Siona that
I
he
think so.
didn't expect her to present as she was ill, and she replies that her work will be more important and relevant than Renthorn's. The Archmages take great offense to the idea, but she goes ahead to present. Siona goes on to present her Freynan mirror and the Stravos Kador mapping spell. The mages are shocked at how clear the mapping spell is and ask her to walk them through her spell work. Impressed, the mages indicate, sorry, um, they're only impressed because she's only done the Stravos Kador so far. The mages indicate that they will be able to move forward with their barrier expansion at the earliest timeline, and we find out that the spell is already integrated and in place on the rescued spellograph with Tomo at their hideout. We still don't know for what. Then Siona shows off her Freynan's mirror, and they see the truth, and she realizes that not all the mages appear to know the truth. So Siona proceeds to explain exactly what is happening. Blight is siphoning people outside of Tiran. The senior Renthorn, so Cleon Renthorn is a nightmare. His father is also a nightmare. Um, Not in the same way. We find out he's very embarrassed of his son, but he is still a nightmare. Okay, the senior Renthorn is outraged and calls Siona a dirty Leonite, which yikes. And then his son Cleon Renthorn asks what's so wrong with the truth, and his father is hypocritically embarrassed by his son. The Archmages continue to be outraged and try to shame Sciona. Archmage Duras then tries to blame Sciona's hearsay on her being a girl. Eye roll. And knowing the truth, Sciona is greatly disappointed and feels vindicated in her path. She has opened the Freynan mirrors all over the city to show the blight and the siphoning, and all chaos breaks loose, and Sciona is arrested. Like I said, a lot happens, so trying to sum it up is hard. Basically, like, so she finds out. I'll just go a little bit more into detail here because it'll be important for later when we discuss. She realizes with everyone being like basically quoting scripture to her, and the shocked faces of some of the mages, and then the higher ups like quoting scripture to her and telling her that they're in the right, and she's disturbed, and it's a truth that's not meant to be seen by men, and like all of this stuff. So she's like, oh dear, they are evil. Well, now I feel super okay with what's about to happen. And then the spells that her and Kara loaded into the giant spellographs. The spell, it's noon, so the spell switches, and Freynan mirrors open up like all over the city. So it happens in the hall, and then it happens in the rest of the university, and then she's arrested, and slowly you see that it's actually happening all over the city every time anything uses siphoning. A like Freynan mirror opens up to show you what's happening as the siphoning is happening. So,
Oh
and she's
man.
arrested. Yeah. Chapter 20,
Valid.
Made Monstrous. Sciona is dragged to a taxi car to be taken to prison. Siona's spellwork has made it so that a Freynan mirror opens up every time magic is used and something is siphoned. Her taxi driver turns the car on and they witness a scaly animal being ravaged by blight. This is happening all over the city, drenching the streets in blood red from the Freynan mirror. Like it's just like the image of red is raining down on the city.
Interesting.
Finally, the mirrors close and they arrive at the jail. Sciona is brought to a large cell away from the rest of the prisoners, quote, for her safety. Sciona can hear the chaos outside of her cell. She thought that all of the chaos would end with the closing of her mirrors, and she was wrong about it. There's mass chaos, gunfire, Quen singing, rioting, and looting outside. Sciona is kept in the cell for like a long time. I'm not really sure the amount of time that passes. I don't know if it's like a day or two or if it's just several hours. It's a long time though. I think it might be like it's either like because she went in at noon, so it's probably like the whole day all the way into the night is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think so.
Alba
Because she
comes.
talks about
Go
a
ahead.
little bit later that it's the end of Farron's feast when the sun goes down.
Hmm.
So, and that was supposed to be like at the beginning. So it's within a couple of hours, I
Within a
think. I
couple of
think she
hours,
just
yeah.
can't tell. At the time, she doesn't know, but we learn
Yeah.
that later. So, yeah.
Alba comes to visit Sciona finally, and Sciona is surprised that Alba is furious with her. She thought that Alba, of all people, would understand. This is where the tears of anger came. Furious. Alba tells
Yeah.
Sciona that Tiran is on fire when he does not want to see her, and that people did not need to see the truth that way. That Sciona has ruined Tirish people's lives. The Quen are rioting and looting everything. Sciona realizes that she never thought about how the Quen would react, even though Tama tried to get her to think about it. Oh dear. Alba tells Sciona that people are dying, to which Sciona replies that people have been dying, and then Alba says the most unforgivable thing I've ever heard her say, which is why I was mad because I loved Alba. She says, whatever, they were dying for the right reason, or something like to that effect, you know? And,
Ugh.
yeah. Sciona tries to reason with her and make her see that this isn't the right way in the most Sciona way possible, so it's not helpful. And to give Alba credit, I mean, she's just furious and she's got all of this pent up frustration in her at this point. She is furious and tells Sciona that Sciona turned her back on and spit in the face of everyone who ever loved her, her home, just to boost her own ego, which I have thoughts about, which we'll talk about in the discussion. And then she slaps Sciona and disowns her and leaves. And Sciona starts crying. She has this moment where she's like, "This is just my go-to reaction now. Like my body's just unable to process anything, so I just keep crying." She cries some more, and she tries to sleep, but she is unable because she's spiraling. She realizes that Tamil was right. The Tirish don't view Quen as people. They don't care about them like they do their own people. After more time, it's unclear how much, I think several more hours, basically, a guard comes to tell Sciona that she's being relocated for her own safety. All the prisons are at capacity, and she's being placed on house arrest by Brigham. And then I have an excerpt. So basically, he's like, "Come with me. Where, for your safety, you're being placed on house arrest." And then they're like going through the city on foot right now. Sciona had never known there were so many Quen in Tiran, enough to make great copper-headed waves in the streets. Most of the time, these people were invisible servants, cleaning chimneys and sweeping streets, working in the mines out of sight, tending to gardens behind fine houses. They had risen from those mines and kitchens in their thousands, and it was terrifying. "We're not going out there," Siona's feet slowed. "What's the matter?" Brigham asked. "Surely you're not afraid of a few of your precious, innocent, put-upon Quen." Siona had no answer, and she had opened herself up to the barb. And Brigham had a point, as Alba had had a point. How had Siona not seen this coming? The Quen were human. They felt anger. They could be vengeful. True. Okay. Siona asks if she's to be thrown to the Quen as an execution, but Brigham tells her that she's to be kept safe until the morning, when she will be put on trial. Brigham has brought his mage's staff to battle the rioting Quen, and the devastation that it wreaks is crazy. I'm not going to get too much into that, but it's like a machine of mass destruction, basically. He can kill people in an instant with it. And then Archmage Duras picks them up in a car that's basically like the Batmobile.
It's not good, but it's the one little bit of levity that we get in this section. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like in the Batmobile, driving through town. I mean, like kind of comically. This is very morbidly comic, but like Quen are being run over and bumped off of the Batmobile while they're driving. Duras is like being an ass and like really just berating Siona, and like the things that he says are so vile, and he's like, "Well, I've got a wife and kids to protect, daughters to protect," and like all of this stuff. And she's like, "Wow, it's just like mass brainwashed hysteria that these archmages have. Like it's just so crazy to her." We find out that Tiran has been placed under martial law, and the mages are allowed to do whatever's necessary in order to bring order back, including unmitigated violence. She realizes as she sees Tiran burning to the ground that she cares about the city and her people after all. Not all of them were innocent souls, but they did not know the truth, and she had been rash in showing the truth to everyone in such a way. I agree, but I also agree with what she did, but we'll get to that. Siona reflects that a part of her is like Cleon Renthorn. She does get a little bit of a thrill at the glory of having achieved such a feat. And then they reach Brigham's home, and the sun has risen for the last few minutes before the deep night, which is like 2 months of darkness. Chapter 21, Damsel and Demon. The deep night has started, and more carnage has been committed to get the car past the gates of Brigham's estate. Siona is happy with the knowledge that Tamil and Kara, at least, were safe. They knew how to disappear if they needed to. In Brigham's house, Siona realizes that Brigham has done the only thing he knew how to cope with the truth of magic. He had essentially cut out his heart and was an empty shell of a person. He was a void. She realizes this as she's seeing, like, his house is, like, empty, but, like, thoughtfully decorated with, like, things that are supposed to mean something, but they don't really to him. And there were, like, and he's, like, always trying to be, like, the benevolent good guy father figure to like cope with the horrors that he's actually committed. This was the only way that he could have done everything he's done, including the factories that we have her finally confront him about it, and still like feel like he was asleep at night basically. He even laments on how Siona is going to destroy his reputation. Brigham tells Sciona that the council is already rewriting history and painting Sciona to be an egotistical villain, and using the riots to prove that the Quen are subhuman beasts. Sciona confronts Brigham about his need to look like the good guy, despite his factories being horrifying places of work for Quen women. Sciona also faces the realization that she hadn't cared about people in the way that she should have, the way she does now, and that's why she was the perfect tool for Brigham. She realizes that she's not Bringham's glory, but in fact his penance. By putting her up for glory, um, he had a way to make his factories and the price of magic bearable. He was this champion of women in an oppressive patriarchy society. Patriarchal society. I cannot speak today. I'm all wound up.
Fair. This book winds you up. We're not even fully there yet.
Brigham even tries to say, oh God, this part's so awful. Even tries to say that his factories do good for the Quen by, suppressing overpopulation. To which Sciona points out that that's totally twisted and extremely evil. And then I have an excerpt to read. Basically, it's like, I'm surprised that this is such a point of contention for you. You were never going to have children. And she goes, how dare you make me a part of this? And how deranged are you that your answer to women being unequal in our society is to make murderers of them as well? Your solution to being a monster was to drag a woman into the abyss with you. Brigham tells Sciona that at the trial tomorrow she should repent and lie to save her life, and Sciona says that she would rather die, especially because it will destroy Brigham too. Brigham tells Sciona that she should write a last letter to her family and tells her that he will write it. He won't give her a pen, and Sciona has the odd realization that he is a little afraid that she might be able to cast magic without a spellograph. She's really excited about how afraid of her he is, and honestly, I would be too. Sciona realizes that the way she's treated her aunt and Alba was wrong. She does not apologize for showing them the truth and showing the truth to the world, but she apologizes for how she treated them. She tells Brigham that her glory wasn't his to take credit for, nor was her blame. There was nothing he could have done to stop her. And then I have two more excerpts to read because I really can't sum this up. So you truly don't regret what you've done here, Brigham said, still sounding heartbroken. You wanted all this to happen? No, Sciona said. I didn't want, she paused to swallow. I didn't want the innocent people of Tiran to suffer. But that collapse out there, she pointed toward the sounds of pandemonium at the gates, which had grown loud enough to permeate even the quiet sanctuary of Brigham's library. That was the inevitable fate of a rotten city built on lies. Straight to the next episode excerpt. Blech. So basically, as they're having this discussion, the Quen outside the gates kind of like break through the gates, and Brigham runs out to the balcony to kill them all. And Sciona is like running after him to be like, stop, don't. And she's like, don't kill them, don't hurt them. Like, what am I trying to say? Because like also our lives are in danger, but she doesn't want him to just murder a bunch of people. So she tries to stop him. And he basically like he like holds her shoulder really tightly to like prevent her from going out on the balcony. And and then the excerpt. The trick was that the cage and the barrier weren't different structures. They were components of the same machine, cast and forged for the same ultimate purpose. Quen were dangerous beasts when it meant tightening control over tyrannish women. Tyrannish women were damsels when it meant tightening control over Quen. They were all hapless children when it meant denying them access to power, and it was that lack of power that made them helpless, made them monstrous, made them subject to the benevolent, tyrannish man who would save them from their deficiencies. Each gear turned tidily into its neighbor, in a soul-grinding system designed to sustain the men who had named the pieces and made them so. Damsel, devil, servant, wife. The next morning, it's still dark. The deep night has started, so it's the next morning, but everything is still dark outside. The corpses have been cleared and the streets are empty as Joris brings the Batmobile around to pick her and bring him up again, because that's what it's a Batmobile. They make it to the High Mgistry for the trial. There are a comical amount of guards present and not a single Quen in sight. Sciona hopes that Dermec was the head janitor's name. She hopes that Dermec had heeded her warning to keep his workers at home. As she's seated, Sciona pulls my favorite move ever. She goes, Archmages, and then she looks Paramus dead in the eye and goes, Father. Because he's there, you know.
He is. And no one's known up until this point that that's who it
Literally
is.
no one.
Yep.
Just destroying people as she goes. He's not happy, and she's super smug, and so are the rest of us, I think. We find out that Cleon Renthorn and Jaren Mordra went missing during the riots. Sciona doesn't really listen to the hearing. She knows that she's not leaving the building alive, so she's kind of just like, whatever. I've done what I wanted to do. Sciona is sentenced to death by unanimous vote. Brigham won't meet her eyes, and she is to drink a vial of clear poison called the Sleeping Death, to fall into a sleep never to wake again. Sciona picks up the vial, toasts the council, and takes the poison in one shot. As the poison starts to take hold, she hears a low rumbling above. Tomo has enacted Siona's backup plan, and she starts to smile. And then I have another excerpt to read because it's good. God bless Tomo. He had hated or loved Sciona enough to finish her last spell. The laugh started low in Siona's stomach and slowly grew to shake her whole body. Something amuses you, Miss Freynan? Orenhal demanded. Sciona didn't answer. She didn't have to. All around, the shaking had intensified as a historically massive spell roared into action. What is that? Archmage Duras asked. That is my final word, Archmage, Sciona said as God's light ignited Leon's hall. 22, Hope and Hellfire. Tamil had not. So this is from Tamil's. We're now in Tamil and Kara's like world rather than Siona's. Tamil had not wanted to enact Siona's last spell. He said he'd rather die. She tells him that if he does it, he'll be exacting revenge for his family by using the same magic that killed them to wipe out the mages. The truth is that he doesn't want to kill Siona, but he's not going to voice that concern, and he also has several other concerns. Sciona tells him that whatever he does, it will be all right, because she's realized that Tamil's soul matters to her. If she's going to die, she wants to go knowing that Tamil is safe, and her own glory does not matter. Oh, and then before she's about to leave, she's like, oh, maybe I'll stay. And he's like, why? So you can convince me to do the spell? And she was like, no, that was a silly idea. I'll go. And she's about to leave. And then Tamil, ugh, where did it go? Here I am. Tamil knows that he's never going to see her again, and he pulls her into a kiss. And Sayona pulls him closer and kisses him back, a delusion that can never exist. And then I have an excerpt for that, because I know I've said that they don't fall in love, and I hold by that. This is just trauma bonding.
I mean, I think there's an element of love there, but I think it's
There is.
we can talk about it more.
Well,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
complicated.
It's complicated. They both knew this was a delusion, a precursor to something that could never be. They couldn't have this. Tamil couldn't really belong to a Tiranish woman, and Siona couldn't really belong to any man, not without losing some vital part of themselves. There was no future here. Tamil would never meet Siona's family, nor endure the scorn of her archmage father figure. Siona would never have to shiver through a dark winter in Tamil's homeland. There was only this moment, and in its isolation rendered it invincible. Later, Tamil tells Kara that whatever happens, she's the one that's going to need to live in the world that they create. So what they do is up to her. And she's like, you can't let me make the decision. I'm a child. And he's like, it's because you're a child that you have the right to make this decision. I'm not going to be living in this world. It's only a hope for you. She has this sweet moment. She holds his hand and she's like, it could be for you too, uncle. She really does love him. Kara wants the mages to die. She says, you know, I'd rather die fighting, if that's what's going to happen to us, than living under the heel of someone else, living, under the rule of the mages. And then, in true Kara style, we got the last excerpt I have. Tamil shook his head. You're too young to have blood on your hands, and God's forgive him. It was going to be so much blood. I'll, I'll do it, he wanted to say, but the thought of Siona stopped the words in his throat. He saw her bright green eyes, her springy hair, her perpetually fidgeting hands, all coming apart in spirals of blood, like everyone he had ever loved. It's what she wants, Kara said softly, but with certainty beyond her years. You understand that, right? She wants to die sticking it to those men. How do you know? Trust me, uncle. It's a girl thing.
It's the girl thing.
She's not wrong. Tamil and Kara go back to their old apartment building before the riots start, the place he can see the consequences of his actions. They set up on the roof while listening to the trial coverage. As he prepares, he says a Quen prayer in his mind and then presses the siphoning key. The barrier expansion spell roars to life, siphoning from the High Magistry itself. They watch as the barrier grows bigger, the High Magistry building bursting into a giant red flower. Back in Leon's hall, back with Sciona, she's watching the chaos erupt around her, her body turning numb due to the sleeping death that she took. And then she kind of like watches as her own self unravels. And she realizes that her last thoughts aren't of vengeance or anything like that. They're of love, which is, I think, a great ending for her. And
It
chapter 23. So much happens in chapter 23, but at this point I was like, eh. So we're going to go through the last chapter real quick and then we're going to discuss.
it's fair.
Chapter 23, Out of Oblivion. Kara is crying, and she's like, "Why am I crying?" And Tom was like, "It's okay if you're crying. Like, you didn't have to watch that." And she's like, "But I did though." And she goes, "Besides, you're crying too, a lot." And he's like, "I know." And they're hugging each other. And then they're kind of like lost in their grief a little bit. And then we get the answer to Siona's question, had he loved or hated her enough? And it was love. He did it out of love for her and for his people. Finally, Kara comes to her senses first, of course, because she would. They have to wrap up and disappear before anyone can link them to what's just happened. As they're making their way to the river to get rid of the spellograph, they come across Runthorn and Jaren Mordra. Kara vanishes with the spellograph while Tamil stays to confront and distract them. Runthorn is gleeful knowing that just the two of them had escaped, the only high mages left in the city. Mordra is horrified. Runthorn is like, "I'm now Archmage Supreme! Can't wait." Then we also find out that Tamil wrote the final coordinates for the siphoning spell, not Sciona. And so there's no like written record of it because he did it in his head, which is great. I just love that for him.
Casual.
Renthorn is like, "Hey, man, tell me, tell me where all this stuff is. I know it was you." And Tom was like, "It wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know." And Renthorn has like a mage's staff, and he basically is like, "I worked this so that I can siphon from you, but it's going to be slow and painful." And he's like, "I'm going to torture you if you don't tell me where the spellograph is because I want that." And Tomo is like, basically preparing himself to be tortured. But then Kara comes back and she's like, "Hey, you!" And then she smashes Renthorn's head in with his spellograph.
Best part of the book.
He gets what he deserves. She kills him, and it's great. It's a great moment for all of us. And then like then they have to deal with Mordra, and Mordra's like, "Please don't kill me." And Tomo's like, "We're not gonna kill you," because he realizes that Jaren is like not he didn't know the truth of it, and he's horrified by it, and he's like very shaken up, and he's like, he was like, "This is wrong, Renthorn," and Tomo heard him say that. And he's like, "Well, one mage changed her mind. Maybe this guy can also be a new hope." And so he goes, "We're not going to kill him." Kara's like, "Why?" And he looks at her and he goes, "We kill to survive, not because we can. We're not Tirish." And he goes, "As long as you, Mr. Jaren Mordra, as the only remaining mage, so Archmage Supreme, remember this day. And remember what happens when you siphon. Like you're now the leader of this. You're the only one with the knowledge. You're the of like how to do magic. You're the only one with the mage status. You're the only one that can now lead this city to something new." And so they leave him there. He doesn't even try to. He's just like, "Thank God I'm not dead." Poor Jaren.
Yeah.
He's not evil. He's just trying.
Honestly, yeah. He's
Yeah.
like, "My dad just wanted me to do this. I don't know what's happening."
Yeah. He's like, "Why don't you kill me though?" And they're like, "No, you got a responsibility now, bud."
No.
Um, yeah. So this is where I kind of like just condensed it all, so I'll go a little bit more into detail. Um, they leave Mordra and they pack up their things and their plan is to escape through the expanded barrier into the Van Holt Mountain Pass. And so they're like trying to go. Three guards stop them. They're like trying to fight them off, and Tomo's trying to protect Kara. And then he sees one of the guards die, and he's like, "Oh no, Kara's killed again." But it wasn't Kara. It was another Quen person. And they realize all of a sudden that like there's like groups of Quen who are packed and ready to go into the winter, into the deep chill, the deep
Mhm.
night. And they're like running for it. They're like, we're done. And so they're running, and there's guards, barrier guards, who are like shooting at them, and they're like really like coming together as a people. And there's this moment where Tamil is like, Kara and I are the last of our tribe. This person's the last of his tribe. Like, there's so many different Quen tribes that are the last of their people who live in, Tiran. And so they're all kind of like leaning on each other and relying on one another as they're like trying to like push past the guards. And then the siphoning spell stops, so there's nothing left for the magic to siphon. So the guns stop, so they manage to escape the city and go on for a new day and a new hope. All thanks to Sciona. Well, and Tamil, because Tamil
Woo!
did it too. The
Yeah.
end.
Woo! It's the end. Yep.
The
Big
end.
breaths. Yeah.
I'm gonna take another sip of my black cherry soda.
As you should. You deserve it. It's a rough go.
Thank you. Yeah. So that brings Blood over Brighthaven to an end. I think before
Yeah.
we go into section superlatives or Colleen's corner,
Yes.
um, let's have a moment of how does it feel finishing the book?
It's satisfying and heartbreaking
Mm-hmm.
all at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
personally. The first time I read this, so it's interesting. First time, pure heartbreak. Only heartbreak. This time, a little more satisfaction, I would say.
That's fair.
So,
I have like this enormous sense of relief that it's over, which is
yes, goodness. Yeah,
yeah. Not in a bad way. We just like we read this book twice this year, which is a lot.
correct. I think I've actually read this book 3 times because I
You
read this
have.
before we did it for book club. So this is my third
Yep.
time,
Oh my goodness.
which, yeah, it's something.
It's a lot. And
Yeah.
but yeah, also like I didn't get heartbreak the first time or this time. I think I was just like really satisfied with the ending. Yeah, but like I just like it's just such a heavy book, and there's so many
Yeah.
emotions in those last 5 chapters. It's like so many ups
Yeah.
and downs, and the ups aren't all good. Some of the ups are like rage and fury.
Yeah.
Some of the downs
Correct.
aren't just sad, it's just like disappointment.
Disappointment and like a little bit of despair, maybe to a point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some despair for
Yeah.
sure. Yep. So just like yeah, bravo to the author whose name pronunciation I still haven't looked up.
Yeah, I realized that before we got on to record. Yes, no, I agree. The author did incredible. They had another book that I'm pretty certain it's sort of Saigon. It could be a different author, but I'm pretty certain it's this author that I would also like to read. That's a standalone that I've heard is also it's similar to this, very incredible.
Mm, I would be
But
interested in that. That sounds great.
I'll need a break first, but I would like to read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Section superlatives.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Craziest thing to happen.
Oh my gosh. The blow up, the
Yeah.
thing blowing up. For me, that was the craziest thing.
Just everyone dying.
Yeah, like I kind of knew it was happening, but not to the scale that it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I would agree. Like, I kind of had a feeling that the first spell was gonna be, there was no way it was gonna be anything else. She was
Hmm.
gonna show everyone exactly what magic was. That's just very on brand for Sciona. Um,
Correct.
I think my brain forgot that this is in a series. And even then,
Mm.
very rarely do series end with the demise of like the main character. And so her like being like, let's go, bye everyone, I'm taking you to hell with me was so
Yeah.
surprising. That's crazy.
Her willingness and like kind of glee in it almost,
Yeah.
like that satisfaction maybe that she got in it. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It was a little
Wow.
shocking in a good way, but shocking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um, Drama queen of the section. I mean, it has to be Brigham again. I don't know.
Bring him a Rinthorn. One of the two. They're both pretty dramatic lads.
They are.
Um, I do feel like Brigham usually takes the cake. Just he's like more melodramatic, I would say, maybe,
Mhm.
especially in this section. But yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to leave it to the discussion, but like he's like continuously being like, I'm here to protect you, and like just mass
yeah,
murdering Gwen and being like, I'm here to
correct.
protect you, I'm keeping you safe, it's my duty. And she's like, dude, you're not a good guy.
Like, don't fool yourself. You suck. We all know a guy like this. We do.
We do. We do.
We know a Brigham, and they're the worst.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Literally the worst. Let's take it on to Colleen's Corner.
My corner. I'm ready. I was actually debating with this because there is so much to like cover
What you gonna do?
with it. Well, what I decided to end up doing is because I was talking about this with my mom, like kind of giving her a rundown of like everything that was happening. Because again, my mom's been following along. And I think the thing that stuck out to me personally the most as a white woman similar to Sciona in this context of Sciona is a lovely example, especially in this last tidbit, of what happens when a well-intentioned white woman tries to do something and actually ends up causing a mass amount of harm without thinking of consequences. And like if you need a good example, so like this is something that I know people of color have talked about frequently. I've seen it mostly come from Black women of color have talked about it that I have seen. I'm sure many communities have, where they're like, especially during like Black Lives Matter movement and things, are like, hey, white women, this is not helping. Like, I know you think it is. If anything, it's harming us. And I need you to think about that and like maybe listen. But then there's that like Sayona didn't listen to Tommel. I'm not saying what she did was necessarily wrong, but at the same time she was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't think about the Quinn." She was like in her mind doing this for the Quinn. Didn't
Yeah.
listen to said Quinn. And then was like, "I didn't think of that. Tommel did though." Huh. And was
Hmm.
like shocked by it. I'm like, "Sayona, come on." So I think she's a very classic example, and I think this is a very well written because I think sometimes white liberal women, particularly women, truly struggle with this. They're like, well, I'm helping, like I'm doing a good thing, and I'm not saying that
Yeah.
what Sayona did wasn't a good thing, but like clearly it had mass consequences that like maybe if she wouldn't have been so rash, could have, you know, avoided or at least
Yeah.
given some time, could have
Hmm.
fixed. So, if anyone ever needs a good example of white woman audacity, I don't think this is a negative book to recommend to them. Like, well
Yeah.
intentioned, but
I think that's a really good point. I do think, like, specifically in the world that it's written, don't think there's
mhm.
anything else she could have done to, like,
No.
blow it apart.
So that
But this is a
I
not a
I
real,
think
this isn't the real world, though.
correct. I think there is an element of I get that she might have been stopped if she would have tried to go about it a different way, but I
Hmm.
think maybe she should have given Tommel and some other people some time to maybe communicate to their own community. Like she should have
Yes.
communicated with her family. Tommel should have been given the time to communicate with others. Like clearly he's connected within the community. He
Hmm.
hung out at the bar with the other people. Give the Quinn some time and a way to prepare themselves in a way that
Hmm.
isn't just like I don't think it was fair to the Quinn
It was
for them
not.
to have to be forced to be seen what is happening
To
to
their
their kin
people.
and to
Yeah.
their lands. So like from a that standpoint, I don't think that was fair for her to do to them. And
Hmm.
I think maybe if they would have had a warning, there might have been a way for them maybe to put themselves in a situation where they didn't have to be confronted with their traumas repeatedly and very bloodily. I think that is
For half an hour.
like unfair and unkind of her to do, like
Yeah.
regardless of her being like I'm helping you, no matter how much you're telling someone you're helping them and then shoving their trauma into their face and forcing them to watch it, I don't think is fair.
Again, it for half an hour every time anything
Yeah,
used magic.
Yep,
Like
which is
Sciona.
everything. So I think there might have been like from a Quinn standpoint and from her
Yeah.
family standpoint, I think on both of those fronts, not her father. Her father doesn't count. But
Mm.
I think maybe there were some things that she could have done to I think it would have been more effective, honestly, because like she was saying, she was like, "Oh, this kind of had the opposite effect of what I meant for it to be," and she understands why they're upset, and I give her credit for that of understanding.
Hmm.
She was like, "I would be mad and righteously mad, but maybe I should have thought of that." So that's my thought. It was just like,
I also think like so to your point of she should have told her family. At the
mhm,
very least, she should have been like, "Hey, I can't tell you, and this is going to be really upsetting. You need to get somewhere safe."
yeah, like
Right?
put she should have protected. Um, Sirena is so complicated in a way, and again, that's I think kind of the well-intentioned person thing. She's so focused on doing what she thinks is right that she's
Yeah.
not thinking of. She's like, I have to cleanse my soul and do what I think is right
Hmm.
to mitigate my own guilt and my own
Hmm.
sin to deal with this. And like,
Hmm.
again, I don't disagree with her. I think the frame and mirror thing, which also, if we're really gonna take the ego out of it, she should not have called it the frame and mirror. She probably should
No,
have called it the thing that the Quinn call it, but that's here nor there.
it's fine.
Um, she's still Siona,
Yeah.
even in the end. Um, but I think she should have just taken just like two more steps. Like she
Yeah.
had this main thing, taken two more steps. I don't think
Hmm.
showing people what the cost of what they were consuming was bad at all.
Hmm.
I think maybe in our own world we need a little bit more of that, to be honest.
I
There's
would
a lot of
agree.
cost for the things we consume.
Hmm.
But at the same time, particularly in the US, I think we have the luxury of being very separate from where our goods come from.
We do. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, maybe do it in a way that isn't going to traumatize an entire group of people that
Yeah.
don't deserve it and are already traumatized.
Yeah.
So,
That's the other
yeah.
thing. Like, I know that she was on a timeline. I get it, girl.
Mhm.
Deadlines and stuff. But, um, instead of telling Tomo and then like just keeping it the three of them, like you were saying, like he could have they could have planned. The Quen could have planned like their own they could have planned
Yeah. There
planning.
could have
There was
been
no
more.
planning. Yeah.
No. Well,
No
Sayona had a plan,
organization.
but
Oh yeah. No.
not outside of what her she was so focused on I don't know. The other side that you can argue with, and then I think this is maybe partially where Sayona is coming from. I realize I rag on Sayona a lot. I relate a lot to Sayona, and so I have to
Hmm.
personally call her out to make me feel better in a lot of ways. But um I get that she's like every second that I don't do this is costing a
Hmm.
life. And so I think
Yeah.
that's some of her urgency. And so I understand that of like if I took longer, what is the weight of this? And like, I mean, to a degree, into it, as she was saying, she was like, I get that it sucks that Tirish are dying, but Quinn are dying in mass.
Yeah. Like
But like,
every day for like decades and decades. 300 years I think
correct.
they
But
said. Yeah.
oh yeah, it's been multiple generations
Hmm.
that have been dying. But at the same time, Quinn still ended up dying in mass, just in front of people because of this.
Hmm.
So like, I don't know that. I don't know how
Yeah.
much that. I think the scales might have balanced there if she would have taken a little bit more time. But
I think so as well. I agree.
yeah,
I agree as well. I'll say it again. I think that it is that it is that like trying to help but not helping.
yeah,
She was doing it a little bit for her own glory and she like realizes that, but really
yeah,
truly she was doing it because she could not bear that like the evil that was happening. She was like all of these
yeah.
men are extremely evil and
I
like
know.
they're not only like they're holding everyone down and they know what they're she still had hope that not all of them knew what they were doing, but she's
Correct.
like, many of them probably know what they're doing, and she's like, I cannot, like, it can't keep going on.
Yeah, which I think is a
Again,
valid.
it's, yeah,
It's a
the
valid
planning.
reaction. Like I'm not saying
Planning
that
would be
her
nice.
emotions. It's not that her emotions are invalid, but like you can't just rush into a revolution, right?
Well, you can't
Like, that's just
also
not.
rush into a revolution only taking your own feelings into account. You have to
Yes.
take other people's feelings into account as well.
Y You can't dissuade your own guilt within the span of, what, a week? That's what she
Yeah.
did. She was like, "I can't live with this guilt. If I can only live for another week on, then I'll be fine." And
Hmm.
there's that element of like, "No, you did this." I understand it's not knowing. I think she was maybe a little harsh on herself and some of those elements, but I appreciate that she fully took on the guilt of her life. Um, but I'm like, then live with it.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know what to tell you.
No, I
Like, you did
agree.
it. You're gonna have to live with it and fix it.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks, but I'm sure we've all done things that we've had to live with and regret and move forward from,
Yeah.
but maybe not quite to the scale of mass murder, but like, you know,
Yeah, maybe not
a
that
little
far.
bit
Yeah,
harder.
yeah.
Maybe not there, but
I
I don't
have
know.
a follow-up
I
question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So thinking about her not helping,
Yeah.
while trying to help, what about the last thing she did? She expands the barrier
Yeah, no, so, like, that part didn't
using
think that part was
all of the
bad.
mages.
So, I've had this question. So, interestingly, I had this exact argument with Frank in a different sense. So, there was a book that him and I both read
Frank.
where yeah, well, so and interestingly, Frank probably has a more moral point than I felt about this topic. So, there is a so it's a science fiction book and you're kind of
Mhm.
out in this world and there is this one like group alien race. This is a bit of a spoiler if you're gonna happen to read this. I'm not gonna say. I think Orsha might know what it is. You should read them. They're really good. We might even try to do them on here
I don't care if it's a spoiler.
at
Go
some
ahead.
point. But so there's this like murdering alien race that they take no prisoner, and they're like a hive mind kind of race. So it's not like you can change one mind. It's like it's a collective thing.
Hmm.
Um, and they keep like murdering and destroying, and it's like a couple of books long, and the main character ends up mass killing an entire race, mass
Oof.
extinction
Hmm.
kind of thing, which is similar to this in a different
Yeah.
sense,
Hmm.
killing an entire group of people or whatever. And I was like, that seems valid. Frank's like, they killed an entire race of people, and like in my mind, I was like, no, 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 they were hostile. There was no way to reason with them, and like but then again, at the same time, maybe I should have taken it into account that like an entire group of people, regardless, were
My
taken out
impulse
or
is
whatever.
to
But see, that's
also
not how
agree.
I
Yeah.
well, so that's the thing, like, Frank and I got into, like, a legitimate, like, pretty aggressive text message argument about this. He was, like, not surprising, but I
Not
was just
surprising.
like no, but I was mild I assumed he would agree with me on this point, but, the moralistically, he was like, "No, you took out an entire race of beings." I mean, they're not people, but of beings, and what gives you the right to do that
Did you
kind of
ask him
thing.
about mosquitoes? Did you bring mosquitoes into it? Would he eradicate
I did
mosquitoes if he could? Because you should ask him that.
I
I'm pretty sure his answer is yes.
I did not, but I at that point, I was kind of like, "You know what? I'm gonna give him some props and credit for being on a very moralistic, positive ground." Like,
Hmm.
whether or not I agree or disagree, so I don't think what she did was a negative, but I can see why some people from the concept of, like, life is life and what gives you the God-given right to control it
Yeah.
kind of thing, I understand that.
Hmm.
I
Counterpoint.
understand I take it more as like they're facing the consequences of their own actions.
Exactly.
That is more of a ground that I tend to take, but I also do think that maybe the revenge part of my brain needs to take a step back and be like,
Well, no, no.
similar to
So
Tommel, but
what I'm saying is that like she is only by sacrificing herself first of all. She's like
yeah.
I am one of these people too. I'm sacrificing myself. She is only
Mhm.
doing what they have been knowingly doing to the entire world for 300 years
Sure.
in order
Yes.
to stop it from happening. Again,
Which I
hopefully.
don't feel bad about.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yes, hopefully, yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, Frank. I would say
Well,
again,
so
mosquitoes. I'm pretty sure I've heard him say that he would kill every single mosquito if he could. So,
that is fair.
what moral ground
I
does he have to stand on?
I did not take it as a negative in the context of the conversation we were having, but I was just surprised by it. Like,
Yeah.
what you've heard us talk about Frank. Frank has been on this podcast. What you know and have seen of Frank on this podcast, I feel like others might also be surprised
Yes, I
that
think
this
so too.
was, to me, I was surprising. I assumed he would, and it was such an immediate response. I was like, oh, I was not
Wow.
expecting the like he was like upset about it a little, not fully. I mean, we were just having a book debate. I have those, but I could tell he was very much like no, and like that's part of the discussion of the book that like some of these characters go through of like we mass extinct an entire
Yeah.
race, like we have to live with that, and it causes a bunch of havoc and everything.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel no, that was the one thing with Sciona. I was like, I would do that. Like where
Yeah.
she's like sacrifices herself. I don't know if I'd sacrifice myself. That's maybe a bigger person than I am. But like sacrificing the self
Same.
to
But yeah.
watch, doing all of the things. That part is probably the part that I agree with the most because especially that she was giving Tommel the keys to do it himself.
Yeah.
She gave Tom like this was the one time that she's like, this isn't up to me.
Hmm.
Interestingly. I
Yeah.
almost feel like it should have been the other way around. I think to
I
be
think
honest,
so
because
as
like
well.
this
Yeah.
affected the Quinn, but less so in a more direct way. The other one affected them more directly, I think.
Way more, yeah.
I think she should have flipped
Emotionally at
them,
least.
but
But yeah.
yes, yeah. I mean, I guess this gave them freedom and different things, but
Yeah.
I feel like maybe those should have been flipped. I think Tommel should have been given the decision of when and how to show everybody, because that would have directly affected the viewing that his people had to have. But
Yeah.
she got part
No,
of it
I
right
agree.
eventually.
I also think it's
Yeah,
interesting because I mean she truly this is getting more into the deep dive, so we'll wrap it up. But like she was like, I'm dying either way. I already know this, so do what you want.
yeah. I do appreciate her. Like, I mean, even me saying like, I don't know if I could do that. Her strength of character in that way
Hmm.
of like, I will also like make the sacrifice kind of thing knowingly
Yeah.
to move this forward and to pay penance. Like knowingly, she's like, I'm going to hell and I'll see y'all there with me. Like
Yep.
she's just like staring him in the eye and she's like, I'll see y'all in hell.
Hmm.
Like, come with me,
Yeah.
have fun.
Yep.
I'm like, oh okay,
It's great.
that's pretty metal. Yeah, like
It's
all right.
pretty metal.
Yeah. But anywho, I have a love-hate relationship with Sciona. I think we can tell this.
Okay.
I appreciate her in so many ways as a character and like struggle with her and like see a lot of her in myself. And so like I think that's part of why it feels so deeply in my
Hmm.
mind. And I'm just like, oh gosh. So anywho, really incredibly written character, clearly. But
Yes.
yeah, that's my tidbit
All
on for the
right.
last bit.
That was a good Colleen's Corner. Good job.
Thank you.
Always great job. Also, like,
Oh,
it looks like there's a projector behind me, but it's literally just the sun and, like, the shadow of the leaves. It's so wild.
it looks very aesthetic. Looks pretty.
Thanks.
Very
Okay, shall
Pinterest of
we?
you. Or Tumblr.
Oh, Tumblr.
Very
Oh my
Tumblr of
God.
you.
Yes.
Oh,
Shall
with the
we?
blue hair. It's great.
Shall we go on to the deep dive?
Deep dive. Yeah, let's go.
Let's talk about something fun first.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the Batmobile?
Yes.
It's kind of fun. it's
It's
this
it's
was just
totally
like
fun.
it's just like plopped in the middle. So what I'm picturing, like Batmobile or like I don't know if you ever watched The Walking Dead, but like Walking Dead-esque like post-apocalyptic vehicles, basically. Like this guy was a prepper, right? Like he was
Yeah,
prepped
he
and
was.
ready for this. It's like a souped up Jeep with, like the stupid zombie handprints on the side that you see sometimes. Like that's what I'm picturing
Okay,
in
that's
this
amazing.
moment. But yeah,
I
I
was
love it.
picturing this like I guess like the Batmobile from like what's the Batman that has like the super sleek kind of sports car Batmobile?
The Dark Knight ones? The
Yes,
more
that's
recent ones, the darker ones? Yeah.
the darker ones.
I think
Yeah.
that's fair because it's kind of armored in a
Mhm.
similar fashion. Yeah,
Yeah. And
I
Siona's
like
just
that.
like, "What is that? What is this?"
she's just she's so bewildered. She's
Yeah.
just like, who? It's one of those things, it's very much like a woman who does not care about cars
Yeah.
seeing a car and being like, I know this is cool and I'm kind of intrigued, but
Yeah.
also baffled
Like why?
by why you have this. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, "Why does this exist?" And then he's like,
Yeah.
"Because for this exact reason." And she's like, "Oh." I mean, evil men who know what they're doing definitely have to prepare for when their, food source
Correct.
rises against them.
But before this, all of his colleagues were like, "You're the crazy prepper guy.
Oh, yeah.
You're the crazy prepper guy." And he's like, he like if
He's so smug.
immediately texted them. He texted all. I would. I'd be
He did.
like, "You told me I was stupid. Who was laughing now? Guess
Yeah.
we can get
Like,
around
oh,
the
can
city."
you get
I
around
can't.
the city? Yeah.
Oh, does your little staff help you that much? I bet it doesn't as much as my car.
Not as much as my car. Yeah, no, that's definitely him. For
Yeah,
sure.
100%. I'd be a
100%.
little smug about it.
Honestly, fair. Yeah, so would I.
Oh,
Um,
he sucks, but like that's funny.
he is actually one of the worst, of the
He is. Yeah,
archmages.
no, correct. Yes. At
Toxic
least,
guys like nice cars, though.
uh, I mean, I like a nice car. I appreciate cars go fast, nice car. I understand, but not at the.
At the
I'm not like a
expense
prepper
of.
car person.
Yeah,
Yeah, not at the expense of other people, but I mean, technically, we can really argue that any vehicle probably has some sort of
it absolutely
gross
does. You're right.
labor attached to it. This can get into a really deep dark state of our world
We're
and
going
like
to fun stuff. Let's move to the next fun thing.
fun thing. What else is fun?
Oh, that Tomo does love Sciona.
Oh, yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's not a love story, but there
No.
is a love plot line, which
Hmm.
I liked. I liked.
Yeah.
Because I do think that both of them deserve. It's one of those things where, like, I don't think either one of them felt like they had the capacity to love another person.
Hmm.
And they both realize that they can, just like a little too late. It's
Yeah.
very like Nicholas Sparks
Yeah. It is very Nicholas
in that way.
Sparks. You're so right.
It's very Nicholas Sparks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went through a big walk to remember phase, so if
Oh
you know that
God.
storyline,
Ugh.
very much that.
Yeah.
I love that movie. Yeah,
It is
and
very
book.
much
But
that.
mhm.
It's like oh, and when I said before, it's like trauma bonding. And you can
It
find
is.
love through that. I mean, they do. They find love through the trauma that she begins to understand he has and that they start to share with one another a little bit as
Yeah.
well. Um, and not only that, it's not even like it is romantic love. It is romantic love, but it's also love of like a family. Like she loves
Mhm.
Kara too. She cares about Kara. She can see herself being a
Yeah.
part of their family, even though it's like absolutely ridiculous and could never actually happen.
I think she feels so like the most herself with them
Hmm.
because she's not weird to them. Her boldness, her brashness, her ambition is Quinn. And
Hmm.
Quinn women are allowed to have those and are given that, I don't know,
Yeah.
opportunity, I guess, maybe. And so I think she feels like she can be herself with him the most. And I
Hmm.
think that's comforting to her without judgment.
I think
Well,
so too.
outside of Kara.
Yeah.
Tomo
Well,
doesn't judge
yeah.
her too much for what Kara
But
does,
Kara's a
but she
teen,
should.
preteen teenager. She's like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I think she
Um,
appreciates it, though. I
I
think she
think
sees
so
herself
too.
in her at
I
13.
think so too. And
Yeah.
then I think that yeah, and then like just like Tomo, he like I think it's this thing of hope. Like he loves her and he cares for
Mhm.
her. But the most important part of their relationship is that like she brought hope back into his life a
Yeah.
little bit. Like
That he could.
that's what he got out of it. That's what she did for him.
Yeah, which I love. I think
Hmm.
that's and I think she knows that. I think that's a very well, kind of. She didn't fully know when she died, which I think that was the part to me that was the most heartbreaking when it comes to like this love story is she's like, I don't know if he loved me or hated me enough
Yeah.
to do this. And she's like, I hope it's love, but I'd be okay if it's hate. And like
Hmm.
that's a sad way for her to go, I
It is
think.
sad, but I do think like so like in the end she's just like whatever it is, I loved him anyways. Like it's fine.
Mhm.
Which is
Which
yeah,
I liked. Yeah.
she really she just like she really grew all at once right at the end there.
So I really liked her in this last half. Like regardless
Mhm.
of whether I agreed with all of her actions, I liked seeing her. And one of the things that I thought was maybe the most interesting about it maybe getting away from this a little bit, but like Brigham didn't get to see her grow her family really didn't get to see her grow. All they remember up until the point, which I think is why maybe some people had the reaction that they did to her, but we can get to that in a second. Of like all they knew is she didn't even remember the name of someone who brought her baked goods every day
Yeah.
to this thing, but like Tummel and Kara get to see that, and we get to see that growth
Mhm.
with her, and I think that's like a Tinder special thing that we get to
Yeah.
walk alongside with them to do.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Okay, we can talk about the hard thing. That's fine.
Okay.
We can go back to the hard topics.
Yeah, I didn't mean to necessarily, but I think it's related to
It's
that.
a good
That's what I
segue.
wanted to. Good segue. I love a segue. So do we want to talk about bring on
Alba.
more Alba? Do you want to talk about Alba? I
Let's
do
talk
think
about
we have
Alba.
slightly different perspectives on this,
We
so I'm
do.
gonna let you rock and roll because I have
I'm
a
so mad.
different uh and I am too. I will say the second time I read this, I had a very, very different perspective on it than I did the first time. I was so guilt-ridden the first time reading this, I couldn't be mad at anything. I, like, could not, like, process anything the second time. I felt a lot better. The first time reading this, I was like, "I actually don't know if I can get through this book because I
That's
was
so
struggling
so
to get
fair.
through it. So,
Yeah.
I will give you both of those, but I'm gonna let you go first because I want to give you space to feel your
Okay.
feelings and to let these out. So
So interestingly enough, it was the opposite for me. The first time I read this, Alba comes in. She just like basically tells Sciona she's the worst person she's ever met. And it's like, I knew you were selfish and we loved you in spite of it. How could you do this? What's wrong with you? You're the worst person in the world. She slaps her and she's like, I don't care
Mhm.
that Quen are dying. Okay, you turned on your own people and all of this stuff. And I just like saw red. Um, the second time I read it, felt a bit more nuanced about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Felt a little bit more nuanced about it. I mean, we don't see because we're wrapped up in Siona's mind. We don't see, for the most part, the incredibly hard work that Aunt Winnie and Alba do to support Siona. We see it a little bit where when Alba is fixing the spellograph, she's like, remember that now because I'm doing this, now you have to do the dishes. And Siona's like, oh yeah, like,
Oh, yeah, I
but
can do that. Yeah.
yeah, like, but like, it's not even a thought to like, she never helps with any of the housework. She never cooks. She never helps. She never lifts a finger. She doesn't do laundry. Like, she doesn't do any of that stuff. Alba and,
Yeah.
Aunt Winnie have been really supporting her this entire time. And like, coming from Siona not having a care in the world and just being so driven and focused and saying so often that it's all about she's smarter than everyone and she will have her
Yeah.
name remembered and all of this stuff. Alba's just, I don't think she really means what she said. I think she's really angry. I don't
Yeah.
think that she should have, I don't think that was the time. I don't
Yeah.
think that she should have gone in there and been like, you're the worst person I've ever met. Of course, it's all about your ego. How could you have done this? You turned your back on us. We don't want to see you anymore. We never, like, we hate you. And she, like, slaps her and walks away. And, like, Siona has changed on the inside, and we see that.
Yeah.
And Siona is like, and she knows, she's like, I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit part of me is still like thrilling at, all of this stuff, but I did it because I couldn't stand the evil. Like, people have been
Yeah.
dying, and I was like, I don't care. And I'm like, Alba,
Yeah.
that makes you the worst person in this room. That makes you the worst
Yeah.
person. You're the bad one. I get so mad. I think I've been holding on to this for like 3 hours now, so I'm a little less mad than I was 3 hours ago. Um, but
Which
no,
is fair. I think it's a fair reaction.
yeah,
Truly, I do. It's a valid reaction.
I'm just so disappointed in her because she's like always this loving person. She has compassion, and the moment she's faced with the reality, with real truth, she's like, "Well, they don't matter. Our way of life has been ruined. How could you ruin our lives by telling us the truth?" And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, do you know the privilege that you're like speaking right now? Like,
Yeah.
oh, it just really grinds my gears.
It should grind
Anyways,
all of the gears.
it grinds my
It should.
gears and it
It
makes me
should.
really upset and disappointed. But I will say, like, the first time we talked about this, you were like, well, and I was like, no, but like,
I know. And I felt bad because I was like, it's only because I think so it's not. I am heartbroken. This is to me,
Yes,
this is more heartbreaking than anger. I am heartbroken
that's
about it.
fair.
Is
That's
probably
fair.
more my perspective. I don't really
Mhm.
have the anger part. I have the heartbreak on both sides from both
Mhm.
of them. And
Yeah.
like so this to me, like I'm tearing up thinking about it because like I remember reading this the first time and being like this was the part of the book that broke me. I
Yeah.
sobbed the first time I read this. I was like, "Oh no," I was at work and had to like stop the book and move on
Yeah.
to something else because I couldn't handle it. Like I was like, "Oh no." Like it was rough. So I think we had similar reactions, just like different emotional states that came about
Yeah.
because of them. So
No, that's
like
fair.
yeah.
That's fair.
Um
It just felt really childish and petty for me for her to like everything is
yeah.
happening, so she went to the jail to tell Sciona that she hates her. Like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I yeah. It is. It's not so this was the part that I was talking about with my mom
Mhm.
beforehand because I was like, "Oh, I think this is gonna be interesting." I do think Ursula and I might have slightly different perspectives and was talking it through about this, and I was like, "I think it's gonna be interesting, but I think it's gonna be a journey." Um, but I think we all know, maybe not all of us, maybe this is just a me thing, but I we've known people that like seem ultimately good and kind and gracious and all of these things. And then they're actually put in a position where they have to stand up for somebody else or they have to actually get outside of what might be their comfort zone and defend others and put themselves out of their comfort zone. And they're like, well, I've worked really hard for my position in life and deserve everything that I've been given. I'm not one of the, those rich people up on the hill. So
Yeah.
why would I care? They're like, I'm living next to I mean, in her mind, she's like, I'm living in the same neighborhood as the Quinn. I'm just as poor. I'm in the exact same spot. And they're not seeing like you said, the privilege that they have to be able to have
Yeah.
that, but they're not seeing that because in their minds, they're like, I'm oppressed. I don't have the same. I have to work really hard for what I've been given. And they're so callous against other things and they can't get past their own mindset because they're like,
Mhm.
I worked hard for everything that I've been given. I grew up in an area that was poorer. There wasn't a lot of, there was a few rich families. So like I've seen this a lot where like you're
Yeah.
trying to explain to people like, turns out people are a lot more racist than you think, even though they're kind and lovely and compassionate people in a lot of ways they're so racist, and it's like,
Mhm.
it hurts to see because you loved and trusted this person, and they're racist or sexist or, like, just something else. I mean, not always be racism, but there's something that they say that, like, just, like, breaks your heart a little bit
Mhm.
because you're like, "You're so good in so many ways, and I put you here, and now
Yeah.
I'm having to come to the reality that you're human, 1,
Mhm.
and 2, that you're someone who isn't willing to grow like I thought you were, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to sit with that and know what to do with it now." And it sucks,
It
and I
does.
hate it. I hate
It
it a
is
lot.
actually the worst.
It is, especially when
Yeah.
it's people, like, in your own family or really, really close that you love deeply,
Mhm.
and you're just having to be like, "Okay, I'm maybe gonna I can't have that person in my life anymore, like,
Yeah.
this isn't something I can get." And, like, sometimes it's not even, like it's not a political difference because I think that's maybe what it's seeming like. It's like a, "This will affect my life or those that I love, and
Mhm.
I can't continue to put myself or someone else in a situation that's going to be
Yeah.
unsafe or uncomfortable for them, and so as much as I love this person and want to continue with this relationship, I can't, and I have to let it go, and that
Yeah. I think
sucks.
like in the most recent years, like in the last like 10 or even 15 years, a lot of politics related situations have come up that are good
Mhm,
examples of this. But there are
mhm.
other, it's not just about politics though. It is about like,
Yeah, which a lot
yeah,
of the topics that come up in this book, I realize are quote unquote political, but they're really not, they're morals.
it's,
Like, I
yeah.
think that's maybe something to establish, like, it's been
Hmm.
turned political because of the nature of the political cycle that we've been in the last
Yep.
honestly, quite a while, like, not even just within the
Couple of
recent couple of
decades.
years.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah. I mean, since at least the 1980s, I would say
Hmm.
I think politics has become very moralistic.
Hmm.
Regardless of at least American politics, but I think in general, world politics has become more of a moral thing, depending on which side you land on.
Mm-hmm.
which is hard. So I do think maybe we need to make that distinction to a degree. Like this isn't political. This is like a
It's moral. Yeah.
moral and social basis. More like
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know, maybe not moral, but like
Kind of
what's the
going
word
off
I'm
of
looking
that, I
for?
think moral is good. I think it's like values based. It's like
Yes,
what you
that's
value
the word I'm
as
looking
right
for.
and good. Yeah.
Yes,
Um
and I think there can be some nuances within that, but there's some things that aren't nuanced.
yeah,
They're like, nope, it just is what it is.
yeah.
So yeah,
I think that I also think like a thought that I just literally just had right now is that Sciona is fully a heretic now, according to Tiranish
yeah,
religion. She is
yeah,
going by the Quen god's idea of morality, and Alba
correct.
is not.
She's a very devout Leonite woman. Like that
Yes.
is her core, very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
And so she is like, she feels extremely righteous in her anger at Sciona,
Yeah. Mhm.
but it still
Would
makes me.
a righteous anger, particularly religious, righteous anger is painful in a different way because you can't reason with that person. As someone again who I know I've stated this a few times is a religious person and has come
Yeah.
across people like this in my life, it brings a different kind of pain with it because like seeing
Yeah.
someone take the thing that is close to you, like I don't think Siona ever necessarily gives up her belief in her god necessarily. I don't even think Tamil forces her to, but I think she shifts. She takes the core values that she still believes and applies them in the way that she thinks is the most correct by what she
Hmm.
was raised by. So like truth to her, like it's still to the gods, and by her moral code, I think even she still, I think, is going to hell. I think she puts some Quinn in there because I think she
Yes.
sees that. I think she kind of takes them both and kind of
Hmm.
puts them in there.
I think
But
like it makes sense to her that, well, she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll say this really quickly and then I'll
mm,
let you go back to what you were
no,
saying
please do. It's okay.
because
Yeah.
I'll lose the thought. I think that
Yeah,
what
it's great.
she has kind of realized is that the way that she's been taught religion cannot be correct because it's based on
Yes.
evil. And so while she still holds faith in her God,
Hmm.
I think she probably is like, well, if my God is good, this makes a lot more sense to me over here. And she's talking about like a little bit of the Quen, God's
Yeah.
morality. And so she's like, if God is good and truth is good and knowledge is good, this can't be actually
Yeah.
what he wants. And what I'm doing, even if I'm still going to hell, I'm creating a path for others to like not go to hell.
Yeah, she's doing what she thinks is her like religious duty, I think,
Yeah.
to which I think maybe is a piece that like a lot of people are missing in
Mhm.
this book. Like I truly think she thinks this is her like God-given duty, which is very tearish of her, to be honest. It's a very tearish outlook and things, but
Mhm.
she's like, I can't let my the thing that like I mean she loved magic because of the power, but I think she quoted scripture frequently at
Mhm.
Tamil. Like she's a very religious
Mhm.
person. It is what guided her in her life, and she loved it and didn't really want to let it go. And I think that's why she had the meltdown that she did. And then I think once she
Yeah.
realized through that conversation that she had with the dumb doctor that she could still keep both and move forward even if she was maybe destined to go to hell in her mind,
Yeah.
um that she could do something and still keep that moral basis that was so close to her. um yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's all wrapped
It
up into
is.
one big complicated mess as everything
Yeah.
is, but
Of course.
yeah.
Shall we talk about Brigham, the drama queen?
I have so many complicated feelings about him.
I hate this
I
man.
like I which is fair. So I don't like him. I don't like the way that he abused, and we all know some guy, some of the worst men I've met in my life, which is kind of why I understand the whole like white women trying to do well intentioned things. Some of the worst men I've met in my life or men like Brigham who quote unquote think they're doing the right thing and they're supporting women, they're some of the most sexist people I have
Yeah.
ever met in my life. And you can't get them to see it. Like you're
Yeah.
trying. And they're like, "But I'm doing good." And you're like, "Ah, no,
You're
you're
like, I
not."
am a woman, listen to me.
And they're like, "But why? I'm helping you. You're not seeing what I," and I'm like, "That's not
She's
the
like,
point.
that's not the
Not
point.
the point." It's so
Yeah.
frustrating. And sometimes those people will listen if they're genuinely that way, but I do think men do it to get, the brownie points from the ladies,
Yeah.
and so they
It's
won't let
like,
it go, but
yeah, it's like this point of like, it is, I mean, it's the I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy complex.
ugh, ugh, well,
Yeah, where it's like, I'm just a
I hate
good
it, sorry.
guy, like,
They're the worst
oh,
every
poor
time.
me, I'm just a good, yeah, no, it is the worst. It's actually, like,
If you
it's
have to
so bad.
justify that you're a good person, you're not a good person.
No, you're not a good
Regardless
person.
of your gender or gender expression, you are not a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that Sciona, so, like, she, like, enters Bringham's home, and again, she's undergone this, like, massive change personally of growth and stuff,
yeah,
and she's just like, "You pathetic, like, weevil of a horrible person. Like, you
yeah,
think that by promoting me, you can get the glory. You think by trying to protect me, you can like take on the martyrdom of like
yeah,
she's like none of this has to do it doesn't have to do with you. It has to do with
mhm,
me. And
mhm.
she's like if I have if I have to take you down with me, I will. And she like
And she does.
kind of rejoices in the idea of like bringing
Yeah.
him down too.
Yes. I
As did I.
oh, that was the most satisfying part, especially after he, like, voted to kill her.
Yeah,
I was like, "You're not a."
just a bad
He's such
guy.
a yeah, he's a weasel in a lot of ways, and I think it's so fascinating in terms of, like, I am intrigued what type of person he would have been if he wasn't put in this context, because I do think he is the most morally aware of all of them. I
Hmm.
do think he understands that what they're doing is bad, and he really couldn't stomach it, and so he forced himself to be, because he's not everyone's born a revolutionary, I don't
Yeah.
think. Does not excuse his behavior. I think he could have
Mm-mm.
just stepped away from the power and found other ways to live that wasn't directly contributing
Yeah.
necessarily. He wanted the power and the control too much, that overrode his empathy.
Hmm.
So, like, I understand that not everyone is Sciona. I don't think Sciona understands that. Siona's like, "I was given all the tools. You should have been able to." Very Quinn of her, gonna be honest, which is fair.
It's
But
true.
I don't think everyone has the, like, "I must fight forward." I think that's a gift that's given to different people. But,
Hmm.
um, I still am curious what he would I think he could have maybe had a chance at being a good man.
Hmm.
Like, I think he was shown that path and chose the wrong one.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like real quick, because so much happens, but we might want to also just talk about like the very real mirror to like women's rights, my body, my choice that
Mhm.
happens here. Brigham
Yeah,
knows that the dyes are toxic. He's like, but maybe it's better for them because like they've been known to overpopulate to the point that they can't,
yeah,
support their children. And Siona is like, one, we've taken everything away from them. That's why they can't support their families. Not because
correct.
they like overpopulate, quote unquote. And she was like, and two, even that being the case, you have no right to make that choice for them without they don't even know. Like they don't have a choice
Yeah,
but to work these jobs. They didn't some of them maybe didn't know it when they first got to the
yeah.
city and you took that choice away from them. And he's like, "Well, you never wanted children. I didn't know that this was going to be such a point of contention for you."
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, regardless of whether you want children or not. So this is, I'm assuming you may or may not know this, but if you do not, this is literally something that directly happened within the Black community.
Mhm.
They have. on multiple occasions forcibly sterilized Black women
Yep.
in particular, and other communities as well. And this is also an argument that I have heard from some not so great people from like other countries that are quite poor, where they're like, well, they have too many kids, so of course they can't support anything. And I'm like, they're
Yeah.
living in a context where they don't have birth control, they don't have access, they
Mm-hmm.
don't have, and also like likely their children will die. So like they may have 6 to 12 kids.
Yeah.
Only 2 of them maybe may make it to adulthood because of the situations that they've been put in by
Mm-hmm.
colonizers and
Yeah.
other
By
things.
colonialism.
So,
Yes, correct.
correct. Yes, I have argued this clearly a few times. And like also regardless, if they want to have 6 kids, they can. Also, fun
Yeah.
fact, I know a lot of families that aren't that are here that have that many kids, which is fine. That's their
Mm-hmm.
choice.
Yep.
Anywho, I
No,
think we're
I
on the same
agree.
page with that.
We
But
are
it's
completely on the
just
same page. It's just
it's
wild. There's
frustrating.
just so much that, like, again, it's this weird thing where, like, we know the world that we're in, but it's so, like, casually just like, oh no, this is the world you're in right now. And you're just like, why? Why?
Seeing the justification from like an intimate standpoint is really interesting because again we're seeing this
Mm-hmm.
through Siona's eyes. We are Sciona. We, to
Yeah.
a degree we get some from Tommel, but in general like we're walking through this world like Sciona and seeing
Mm-hmm.
people justify this and her being like, what do you mean?
Yep.
Like no, it's yeah, wild.
It is wild. Oh, one thing I picked up on, I think it was last week, and I forgot to mention it.
Mhm.
Um, Siona and Tomil are the same age.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
I realized what age they were in
I have
general.
no
They were
idea
just kind
how
of
old they
there.
are, but they're the same age. I would say
Yeah,
like 30s.
yeah, they seem pretty established and like
Yeah,
older. I know I've said this before, and it's not the point. I do think Tommel should be on a few more book boyfriend list.
I agree.
Great choice.
He's
There's really like not a downside to. He is almost too perfect outside of
he
like maybe giving his 13-year-old
just so much
ward,
trauma.
whatever you want to call her,
Yeah.
just like so much like I don't know choice, but at the same time, I think there's an element of that one is the only thing that's complicated for me about him because I also
Mm-hmm.
understand being like so many people in your life make decisions for you and I'm not going to be one of them and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I do think he's given her a lot of the tools to make the decision, but also like forcing a 13-year-old to be the reason that they kill an entire race of people seems
Yeah.
rough. Maybe he shouldn't have done that to her, but I get it.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is complicated. But that
Yeah.
aside from that, perfect book, perfect man.
I I mean again, we've established this a few times. I love a ginger. He's a ginger with long hair. I
He is.
I love it.
He's
I
great.
get that again, I think he's not on the list because of the point of these books. But there's a lot of characters that's not the point, and they're still on the list. I think
That's
Tommel
correct.
should be on the list. I love him.
We'll start a campaign.
We should. And again, I know I said this, but throwing it out there. The guy who plays Tormund in Game of Thrones
Yes, yes,
is Tommel.
he
That
is.
character in general is Tommel, and I love that character. He's my favorite in all of Game of Thrones. Incredible.
I agree. I agree 100%. He is amazing.
Yes. So, anywho, rolling with
All
that.
right, cool.
Little
And then
lightheartedness
I
thrown in
guess,
there.
do we have anything else to talk about? Really?
We talked about Brigham, we talked about Alba. I mean, we can talk about them. I mean, the Quinn seem to have hope. They escape.
Yes, they
They're able
escaped.
to live as their I don't know ancestors lived. Hopefully, I mean, we don't really know. I think
Hopefully,
that's the
we
interesting
don't.
part of this is like
Mm-hmm.
they're given the opportunity, but like none of them outside of I don't know how many of them have lived like Tamil has, but I don't think many of these people are first generation immigrants
Yeah.
into Tiran anymore. So it'd be intriguing to see. Hopefully, there's enough that they'll be able to help navigate with the others, but it may be
Yeah.
not. It might be hard.
It might be hard. I think that it's
Yeah.
like it's gonna be interesting for them too because they all have I mean they've been living together in like the
Mhm.
Quen neighborhoods and stuff, but like they all have such different they're all from different tribes. They all have different cultures and traditions and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's already been in the melting pot a little bit, so to speak. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm just excited for them to like go out and have the chance to kind of rebuild their cultures and their
Yeah.
tribes and like all of that stuff. Like they're going to go
Mhm.
out and they're going to like be free and they're going to be able to hopefully find some of the Quinn tribes that are not have not been turned into cannibals through desperation, but hopefully
Yeah.
kind of find that sense of community again and start
Yeah.
rebuilding. And
I hope so.
the world is going to be able to start rebuilding as well because
Yeah.
life finds a way.
Finds a way. Very Jurassic Park of itself.
Yeah.
But yes, no, I agree. I think I liked that that was the ending. I liked that it
Hmm.
wasn't just Sciona dying and Tommel and Kara escaping, that there was
Yeah.
like a larger like I maybe some of the unintended consequences that Sciona did put forth, at least there was, regardless of all the craziness, there was a lot of good that came out of
Yeah.
it. Luckily.
Luckily, yeah.
But yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, glad over Brighthaven. We're officially done.
Woo, we're done. I
I
think
will
you can
say
tell
that
relief.
we're relieved, like so relieved.
Oh, we love this book. We
Um,
do. Like this is one of my like top reads of the year. It's so good, but
yeah.
like oh,
Oh my
oh
God. So happy to be done. It's it's been a good it's been so good. I'll be real. It's been really good and it's been like
yeah.
really nice to sort of flex those, dormant literary muscles that I
Hmm.
haven't in a while. Cause like as much as we tried to with the funner like the Akatar books and Fourth Wing and stuff, um, they are they are not serious books. They are good
No, they're
books.
not made
They're
to have
not
these
serious.
points.
Yeah.
Yes, they're well written, but they're not
Yeah.
this. That's not the
Yeah.
point of them, and that's okay. It's just
Which
not.
is
You
great.
can't dig into the like. You can try, but there is an element of like this feels silly. It's a fairy book.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
it's harder to like dig in. You're like, this is just about dragons that can talk. Like this feels
Yeah.
this feels weird to be like having these like grand moral points about like it's dragons.
Yeah.
We like
It's just
dragons.
dragons. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so this is technically our first anniversary as well. Um,
Yes.
so when this episode comes out, it won't yet be our first anniversary. Our anniversary was July 8th. Is
July 8th.
July
Why
8th.
we chose that date, I don't remember.
I
It
have
is July
no
8th is when we
clue. It's
posted it.
July 8th.
I do remember thinking, I was like, why did we like I'm looking at it, I'm like, why did we choose like the weekend after the 4th
It's so
of
random.
July? I don't remember. It took us a little while to get there.
It did.
It
Um,
may not seem like we did a lot of planning, but we did.
we really did. We planned so
We
much
really
for
did.
this.
We did, which is good.
It's good.
No, I mean, it's been a full year of us posting. I mean, not exactly weekly, but close.
Yeah,
For people
close
who
to
have
weekly.
2 full-time jobs is impressive.
Yes. Yeah, I also moved
Yeah,
back to New Jersey, or from New Jersey
correct.
back to St. Louis,
Yeah, correct.
so we
You
did it.
did.
We did
We
it.
did it.
What a
We
year
did things.
it's been.
We're here.
We're
It's good.
here.
I'm excited. I knew we'd be here, but at the same time, like you never know when you start stuff like this,
Yeah.
right? Like this was something that we had talked about basically since we'd become friends. We had made jokes
Yeah,
about it once we realized
for
we
a
both
long
liked
time.
books.
Yeah.
And then at your going away party, I was trying not to have a meltdown. And you're like, "We're doing a podcast," and I was like, "Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We're doing it." And that was when we decided. That
That
was
was
like
when
the
we
final
decided.
decision where I was like, "Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
Might
let's
as
do a
well.
podcast. And then we were like,
You're
okay.
gonna
And
be
I was like,
gone."
great.
In my mind, I'm like, "She has to talk to me at least once a week if we do this. She
Hmm.
can't get away from me."
In fact,
So,
it's much more than once a week. It's like pretty much every day.
correct. Well, yeah, because there's so much planning. There's so
There's a
much
lot of planning.
well, we're also, like, actually friends, but I was like,
Yeah.
"She's moving away from me. She's not allowed.
Hmm.
1. 2, gross. Come back to
I
me."
will
And
say
you did.
that I'm not great at keeping in touch with people, so this was
Mhm.
really helpful
It was helpful.
to
Well, it gave me
force
structure
me
to
to
talk
keep
about
in
things.
touch. Not that I don't want to, it's just I'm bad at it.
Well,
So,
Same. My college roommates, if you happen to be watching, can attest. Bless them. I talk
Mhm.
to them once every like 5 months, and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Alyssa, Liz, you're never gonna see this, but if you, on the off chance that you do, I love you. We never talk.
But see, no, what we're gonna say is it's only our first year. When we're
Hmm.
famous and everyone watches us, they're gonna see it.
Exactly. Yep. It's only
They'll
our
know.
first year. We have um 189 views on Spotify total, which
I mean, that's
for
not
the
bad
year,
for
which
a
is not bad.
first year with zero marketing budget. The
0.
marketing budget is our personal time.
Correct.
And like a
Um
slight investment in branding. Yes.
um very slight. I will say, and I'm just going to look up on YouTube right now. Um that we have with our videos. I think we've got like a few hundred views on our videos, on our episodes.
That's decent for YouTube. Like, we'll take that.
Yeah.
A lot I've been watching so I am a YouTube I have been watching YouTube for over over 10 years probably. I've been watching it forever, since high school. Um, and so, like, most of the people that I, like, watch there's, like, 2 camps. They go viral, they're, like, 3rd video,
Mhm.
or they post for, like, 2.5, 3 years, and then
Mhm.
finally one day something just happens to pick up. So that's what I'm hoping for us, and I actually think that's better. I think having a catalog for us and also, like, we've grown. I've
We
grown a
have.
lot. So, like, I was very uncomfortable in front of the camera to the point that we did our first episode, and it was so awkward, we had to redo
We had to
it.
redo it,
It was rough. Um,
but it was fine.
no, it was fun, and I'm glad we redid it. I remember so I was actually sitting in this room, and I was like, "Okay," because like, I just wasn't used to being so I had a, like, 3-episode YouTube thing that I did in college. Because when I had no
Mhm.
friends, I got to college, and I did, like, 2 or 3 episodes, and I finally got the courage to show one person, and they were like, "Oh, wow," and I was so immediately embarrassed that I deleted the entire channel and never
Oh my
I never
God,
tried again.
no.
It was bad, it was rough. That person was not a nice person, and, we are no longer friends. And we were, like,
Good.
not friends much longer after that, but I was just,
Good.
like I didn't have much time post that point, I had a little more time freshman year. But I was like, "Oh, people have perceived me as a person." I am very used to being perceived now. This has actually given me
Yeah.
so much confidence. So much
Yay!
confidence.
That's
So,
good. That's
yeah.
exciting.
I sit in front of the camera every
Um,
week, you can't hurt me.
I I don't think I've grown a lot too. I don't think I was ever uncomfortable on the camera, but it's just it's more like behind the scenes. Like I can
Yeah.
prepare for these so much quicker than I used to be able to.
Yeah, which is good. We love
Yeah,
that.
it's great. And then just like I guess there yeah, I mean there is just so much more comfort. And then like in doing
Yeah.
this, I mean if you look at back at our year, we have interviewed an author, MK, looking at you. Shout out.
Yeah,
Ow, ow.
MK, we love you.
We love you. We've had
Yeah,
guest
we've
stars,
yeah,
right?
for our first year,
For our
which is
first year.
insane. We've done, like, location shoots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so getting used to kind of being a host has been an interesting journey, I think.
I liked
But
hosting more than I expected, actually. My
it's
mom was talking
nice.
about she watched an episode, she was like, "You did so good," and I was like, "I loved that more than I thought I would." I liked interviewing and, like, hearing and
Yeah.
seeing the results.
It's really fun. I had my mom and grandma
Yeah.
on and I felt so like professional when I was
Yeah.
leading their discussion. So hopefully, more to come with that. We have a few more location shoots that
Mhm.
we have planned that we need to organize.
We do. Yes, that's on our list.
Hmm.
I do think there's some authors that we could probably reach out to. We should read their books and
Hmm.
then reach out to them.
I think that's a
That
great
we've
idea.
had a list for a little bit. Two that I can think of off the top of my head, which I
Yeah,
think their books would be fun, actually. So,
sounds great.
but yeah,
And
there's so much more to
I
come.
think that our next season, have we decided? Are we doing Quicksilver?
Do we want to do? It is a longer book. I will state to you,
Okay.
I really liked it. It's a relatively popular book. The second one's going to come out soon. It's back in our fantasy realm.
Hmm.
Slightly different magic style and system, but it does have a dark birdie main character and a fun redhead
Yes.
side character, which is
Cannot
my
wait.
favorite.
That's
Um,
like our dynamic duo.
which I'm a little bit excited about the fact that I have read it and you haven't
Yes,
when we're
I have
going through
not
it. I
read
think
the
it'll be
book.
interesting. So
Yeah,
I think you're gonna
so
like it. I was intrigued when I started it and I'm really loving it. So
it's amazing. I cannot wait. It's
yeah.
gonna be so fun.
So
It's gonna
Quicksilver.
be a nice shift. Quicksilver will be our season 5 book.
So many
And
seasons. Also, we've done so many books
we've done a lot of books. Because
in 1 year.
we've done 4 books in seasons, but then we've also talked about Girls Who Burn. We've talked about
The Ellie Hazelwood
um
one,
yep,
Love Theoretically.
Love
Yeah.
Theoretically. We've talked about Twilight, technically.
Twilight.
I did the
The
number
book
one
that
ladies
you
detective agency.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We've done a lot of books.
We've done a lot of books. So,
Done a lot of reading.
yeah. All right. I think this brings our season to a nice close. We have a lot of
Yes.
fun stuff coming up. It's going to be a great year.
Yeah. We're excited.
Yay. All right. Bye
Yay.
everyone. Signing off.
Bye. Bruce.